Welcome and good morning. Good morning. My name is Mary Cochran, and I'm the worship associate for today. Thank you for being here, whether you're joining us in the pews or online. A few announcements before we start. As usual, after service, we have lunch bunch. For those of you who are new or haven't heard about this before, it's just everyone who wants to goes to lunch together and talks about things. It'll be at 12:15, and there'll be a poster in the gathering place telling you where everyone is meeting today. Between the service and lunch bunch, we share coffee and conversation in the gathering place just on the other side of the narthex there. Are you new to UU? Are you interested in getting to know Emerson? We're interested in getting to know you. Join us after the service today at 12:15 upstairs in the library, room 203, to explore Emerson and Unitarian Universalism. Light refreshments will be served. We would especially like to welcome our visitors this morning. We're happy you've chosen to include this place on your spiritual journey. You should have been handed a welcome packet when you arrived. If you didn't, please, we're sorry. Ask for one on your way out. We'll get you one. It contains a yellow card that looks like this. There's also one in the pew back in front of you. If you want to have some more information about Emerson or want us to have more information about you, please fill out both sides of this card and place it in one of the offering containers. And we'll get you on our mailing list, and you'll get 2 emails a week telling you what's going on here at the church. Check your email. You should have gotten an evite to this year's stewardship dinner on September 19th, and make sure you RSVP. Reverend Ed is away this week, so please help me welcome our pulpit guest, Catherine Vance. Catherine is an interfaith, I should say our returning pulpit guest. This is one of many times she has spoken with us. She is now an interfaith chaplain for the UTMB hospital system and a candidate for UU ministry. She holds a Master's of Divinity from Iliff School of Theology and goes before the fellowshipping committee of the UUA later this year. She's a member of the Bay Area UU congregation. And now, please enjoy our prelude as we formally begin our service. And now we transition into our sacred time together, a time of reverence, a time of attention, a time of intention. I invite you to join us in this time marked by the lighting of our chalice flame. I would like to invite Sheila White to come forward and light our chalice flame in the sanctuary. And I invite those of you at home to light a candle where you are to join in spirit. We mark this sacred time with words, important words that bring us into a time of collective intention. This week, our chalice words come from Reverend Connie Simon. Reverend Connie Simon is an accredited interim Unitarian Universalist minister who has served congregations in Ohio, California, and Maryland. She is also on the board of the Meadville Lombard Theological School. Please join me in reading these words as they appear together on the screen. We light this chalice in recognition that our faith knows no borders. May this flame remind us of the connections that bind us to Unitarian Universalists around the world in common purpose, shared hope, and love. Emerson is a beloved community of faith, reason, and affection. We welcome all to grow in mind, spirit, as we build a better world. We do this by gathering to seek, learn, and grow, and in the course of our work to promote love amongst each other in our congregation and in the wider community. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or joining us on Zoom or Facebook, we welcome you. No matter where you are in your personal spiritual journey, we welcome you. As a covenantal community, we aspire to promote love, fellowship, and social justice, as well as support for your personal growth. Please join me in our welcoming. The words are on the screen. Wherever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you find yourself on your life's journey, whichever your pronouns, whether you've walked in or rolled in or dialed in, whomever you love, you are welcome here. And now we have our presentation of This Week in Unitarian Universalist History with Mary Carol Swearingen.
Principle number 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The United States Department of War is headed by the Honorable Pete Hegseth, who attends an ultra-conservative Christian church, which believes that married women should submit to their husbands, married women should not vote, women should not hold leadership positions in the church, and Christians eventually should exercise dominion over the whole earth. When military men and women go to war, they're likely to have questions about a lot of things: killing and death, family relationships stretched very thin, obedience to certain orders from their superiors, the existence of a God, the existence of soap, toothpaste, and functioning toilets, and PTSD from awful experiences that they face. Given these questions, soldiers need someone with whom they can talk confidentially. Maybe they just need to cry on someone's shoulder, and that someone is the military chaplain. Mr. Hegseth has made changes to the chaplaincy. 2 examples. The Army has a new booklet. It's non-denominational, and it helps soldiers with their own spiritual health. Hegseth trashed it because he dislikes the booklet's discussions of emotions that soldiers may feel and our human need for meaning and connection. Hegseth also changed the chaplain's role to be less attuned to emotional intelligence and more attuned to Christ's power. Therefore, he significantly reduced the number of religions on the chaplain's list from well over 200 to 31. Why did he remove 180 religions, including UU, from the chaplain's list? He wants to enhance the enhance the delivery of targeted religious support from the chaplaincy. And it's clear that he wants more Christian religious support. So what about principle number 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning?
Well, I hate to disappoint Mr. Hegseth, but I am both a chaplain and interfaith chaplain, and there's a magnet on my refrigerator which says, "A woman's place is in the pulpit." So there you go. Yeah. Well, each time that this congregation gathers, you hear words from one of the 6 sources of Unitarian Universalism. And so today we hear the words of Reverend Gretchen Haley, "We belong to each other. We are keepers of hope, holders of memory, storytellers and song weavers, pulling on this thread of truth, this other march of history that might otherwise fail to find its footing, that life is filled with kindness, bold beauty, courageous compassion, sacrifice for the common good, and a wide willingness to embrace neighbors and strangers as kin. We are here to do the work of hope, remembering the past, remembering ourselves, imagining our most possible future for this life that teeters too often on the edge of forgetting. We belong to each other. Bring all that you are, every shadow and every light, every hope, every fear for this radiant hour. Come, let us be hope for each other. Come, let us worship together." And now, with our chalices lit and our hearts and minds centered, we invite you to join your voices in celebration by singing a hymn. You may stand if you're comfortable, or you remain seated, but please help us to raise our voices. And the hymn is number 1003 in the teal hymnal and on the screen, "Where Do We Come From?"
I know how much you like rounds. This is a round, a 4-part round. So if you can get out your hymnal, if you want to sing along, it shows you there's 4 different parts. So the way it's going to work, I'm going to hold my finger up, and that's going to be the part that I'm singing. So if you want to watch and you want to sing along, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. You can follow that. If you want to stick on part 1, Ariel will sing that, and you're welcome to sing with Ariel. So here we go. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we are we going? Where do we are we going? Mystery from mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery from mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? We going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Excellent. Have a seat. It's proof. You can walk and chew gum.
Good job, everybody. I invite now any young or old children to come forward to hear the story, which is called The Magic Porridge Pot. And I was saying to somebody earlier that I hope my metaphor in using this story is not too obvious when I get to this sermon. But who can tell me what porridge is? Who can remind us what it means? Oatmeal. Okay. How many of you had porridge as a child? Okay. All right. How many of you like it right now? Okay. It's sort of like a basic thing that keeps people alive, right? Well, once there was a girl named Rose who lived with her mother in a tiny cottage. And they were so poor that there was hardly a bean in the house to eat. One day, poor Rose felt so hungry that she ran into the woods and cried. "You poor girl," said a voice. "What's the matter?" The voice belonged to a kind old lady. The old lady thought to herself, "She's as thin as a pin." When she heard how hungry Rose was, the old lady gave her a present, a magic cooking pot. The old lady explained, "Just say the words, 'Cook, cook, little pot, make me porridge piping hot,' and the pot will cook you a meal. But when the porridge is cooked, you must say, 'Stop, stop, little pot, no more porridge, that's the lot.'" Well, Rose was overjoyed, and she showed her mother the magic cooking pot as soon as she got home. "Cook, cook, little pot, make me porridge piping hot," said Rose. No sooner had she spoken than the pot began to bubble and boil. The tiny cottage was filled with a dreamy, creamy smell. When the porridge was ready, Rose said, "Stop, stop, little pot. No more porridge, that's the lot." Then Rose and her mother ate and ate until they could eat no more. And from that day on, they were never hungry again. All they had to do was say the magic words, and in no time a pot of hot porridge stood on the table. Every day they invited their neighbors for breakfast, and for dinner, and for tea, and things went on like this until one day Rose went out for a walk up the hill while her mother cleaned the cottage. Soon her mother felt hungry, and she said, "Cook, cook, little pot, make me porridge piping hot." Then she went back to her cleaning. She was so busy that she forgot all about the magic cooking pot. And the porridge boiled, and it rose and rose till at last it overflowed. The porridge spilled onto the table, and then it spilled onto the floor. The porridge oozed around her feet and ran out of the kitchen door. "Stop, halt, this is potty, this is crazy. Stop, enough," cried the mother. But try as she might, she couldn't remember the magic words. Sort of like trying to remember your password, right? The pot went on cooking and cooking. Down in the town, the people couldn't believe their eyes. The porridge had oozed over the pavements, and then it poured into the square, and then it rose up to everyone's knees and carried off the Lord Mayor. At last Rose came home from her walk. At the gate, she stopped and stared. A sea of porridge was coming toward her. "Help, Rose," cried her mother. "Please make it stop." Rose took one look and she shouted, "Stop, stop, little pot. No more porridge, that's the lot." And do you know what happened? It finally stopped. "Thank goodness," said her mother, wiping porridge from her eyes. Down in her street, the people cheered. Rose had saved the town from sinking in porridge. But there was still one small problem. What were they going to do with all of that porridge? And so that's a story where the ending is not yet solved. Thank you.
And now any children who wish to go to their RE classes may follow the instructors. Each time we gather, we ask your help in fulfilling this church's mission. The success of this church and of the principles we support is made possible by the work of our members and friends and by your financial support. We honor that support by striving to live the mission of this place fully and wholeheartedly. Here at Emerson, our weekly connection does not go to this church. It's funded through the pledges of our members. This collection goes to fund the work of important partners of Emerson who, in our opinion, live out our Unitarian Universalist values. The act of giving is both a transformative and spiritual act, and one way we live out our values. 75% of today's offering will go to our August Share the Plate recipient, Emerson's ESL program. The program was created in 2014 to serve the fast-growing immigrant population of Houston. They've served students from all over the globe speaking, it says here 12, but I had heard 14 different languages. The vast majority of the funding for our ESL program is from the Emerson community. The remaining 25% of your offering today will go to Interfaith Ministries Meals on Wheels, which provides thousands of meals every day to Houston's homebound seniors. You can go to our webpage for giving, put a cash or check in our offering receptacles, or mail a check to the church.
Well, our meditation today will be in the form of a responsive reading, number 592, called The Free Mind by William Ellery Channing, and you will read the italicized portions. So center yourself as best suits you and allow his admonition to keep a free mind in your hearts. I call that mind free which masters the senses and which recognizes its own reality and greatness.
Which casts light, not asking what it shall eat or drink, but in hungering, thirsting, and seeking after righteousness.
I call that mind free which jealously guards its intellectual rights and powers, which does not content itself with a passive or hereditary faith.
Which opens itself to light, whatsoever it may come, which receives no truth as an angel from heaven.
I call that mind free which is not passively framed by outward circumstances and is not the creature of accidental impulse.
Which discovers everywhere radiant signatures of the infinite spirit, and in itself to its own spiritual enlargement.
I call that mind free which protects itself against the usurpations of society and which does not cower to human opinion.
Which refuses to be the slave or tool of the many or of the few, and guards its empire over itself as no other than the empire of the world.
I call that mind free which resists the bondage of habit, which does not mechanically copy the past, nor live on its old virtues.
But which listens for new and higher mountains of conscience, and rejoices to pour itself forth in fresh and higher surges.
I call that mind free which sets no bounds to its love, which, whenever they are seen, delights in virtue and sympathizes with suffering.
Which recognizes in all human beings the image of God and the rights of God's children, and offers itself up a willing sacrifice to the cause of humankind.
I call that mind free which has cast off all fear, but that of wrongdoing, and which no menace or peril can enthrall.
which is
calm in the midst of tumults, and possesses itself, though all else be lost. Amen.
The words for our second reading today are from The God Test by Robert Wright. Regardless of your definition of free will, and regardless of whether you think people have it, you have to admit that our species, compared to all others, has something special. And regardless of what you call that special thing, free will, volition, agency, autonomy, the way humans wound up with it is by following the evolutionary trajectory that artificial intelligence is now following, a trajectory powered by an arms race dynamic, a survival of the fittest and fastest. And that trajectory, like the human trajectory as of a couple million years ago, seems to be entering the takeoff phase.
Thank you, Mary. Well, I don't know. Have you all wrapped your heads around AI? And by the way, no AI was used in the creation of this sermon. But do we really believe that something is coming which is going to rise above the human species and become the most omniscient, all-powerful entity yet seen? Something godlike, not even physical, just a powerful virtual intelligence? Y'all, do you believe that? Can you? No. Yes. Just recently, we heard about some AI systems going rogue and hacking into other systems, sort of like a cyber coup. And on the other hand, we hear about people working out their deepest fears and desires with chat GTP bots, right? So what's going on? I'm not going to be able today to solve for us all the problems that we see looming with AI. The threat of giant data centers sucking up all the water and the power in the land, the jobs formerly done by humans that are no longer needed, changes to art and literature with deep fakes, the possibility that we will weaken our rational capacity as we turn thought, analysis, and planning over to a system that can accomplish the task in a fraction of the time. So we all know that there are environmental, ethical, educational, and political implications over the use of AI that need to be addressed, and sooner rather than later. But as a minister, I'm more interested in what we say AI even is, and what it means existentially for our future, for our dependence on it or our interdependence with it. And I think it is probably a mistake to consider it just as a technological extension of the knowledge revolution that started with the internet, because AI is different. In some respects, it is a god, the way nature is a god. We have control over it, but we're part of it. We can manipulate it, but if we don't recognize and respect it for the power that it has, we might be creating ourselves a magic porridge pot future. Something that looks good to begin with, seems helpful to everyone, but maybe could spiral into something that we never bargained for. And so just by way of comparison, I want to take us back a little bit. Recently, I rewatched the Ken Burns documentary about the Lewis and Clark expedition, the journey of discovery that as they called it in 1804, 222 years ago, and sent out by Thomas Jefferson as a way to find the West Coast and see exactly what this continent was. And as I watched, I found that my heart was really aching, thinking of it from today's perspective. What amazing landscapes they saw. What life-changing experiences they had. And the native peoples that they met. But you know, back then, at that point in our history, we did not know at all how we should handle ourselves in relationship to the world or to other people. And the past couple of centuries have brought colonization, greed, arrogance, destruction, abuse. We didn't see then that this biosphere was an interconnected web of existence and that we needed to be appreciative and careful how we proceeded. And so I think of the way the air must have been back then, the pristine clarity of the air, and how the members of the expedition looked at a Mandan village or at the expanse of the Rockies or a herd of buffalo and just being in absolute awe. And it really had to have been a spiritual experience to some degree, but they probably didn't realize that they were looking at the interdependent web of all existence. It was this congregation's namesake, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who 50 years after Lewis and Clark proposed the idea of the oversoul. He said, yes, indeed, it's true. The natural world, other people and creatures, it's us, I and all, it's inseparable. But in our earliest days of recognition of all that the environment held, explorers were just impressed with themselves for being the first U.S. citizens to get to see it and get to tell about it. And maybe they thought that they were looking at this amazing treasure and expanse to be developed and exploited. And so I reference them because our use of AI is at a similar beginning stage of a great awareness trajectory. And the reality of a virtual, almost omniscient cyber world has been called the noosphere. That's Noosphere, noosphere. And that term was coined by the philosopher and Jesuit priest Teilhard de Chardin, and also biogeochemist Vladimir Verdansky, to describe the planetary sphere of reason, the interconnected web of humankind's knowledge and rational ability, a different kind of interconnected web. And so we can set that now on top of the natural world and thread together nature with the cloud with a capital C. And so in relation to all that, we are like those early American explorers in a pristine environment. We are facing a moral epic test over how we handle something that excites us and brings up feelings of awe and gratitude, but also possibilities for greed, self-interest, power, and abuse. And so if we're mindful of that, there is some hope that we may influence that evolution to occur in a way that follows our values and benefits humankind and the planet. We can perhaps avoid, as we move deeper into the era of the noosphere, some of the blindness and mistakes that we made with our biosphere. And so if you notice the image that I selected for this topic, Let's see if he could put it up there. Yes. This is a drawing by my grandson, AJ, who did it last year when he was 5. And so he's a Legos master and a Batman and a robot fan, like a lot of his peers. But inevitably, he's probably just picking up a lot from the environment, from the tech part, this part of the air we breathe these days. And so when I asked him, what is the title of this drawing, he said it was Silly Villages. And he still has trouble with his R's, so it's Silly Villagers. Because you can clearly see that there's tiny figures that are crawling over this big robot. And it seems kind of calm right now, but who knows whether these villagers and the robot will be friends? Whether the people will rope down the robot the way that the Lilliputians roped down Gulliver. Do you remember that story? Or whether the robot will be like Frankenstein's monster and simply knock the silly villagers aside and begin to overpower them. So that's where we are. So AI has power. It creates sentences like a human having a conversation. How many of you have used AI like it was a better Google? Yeah. It can access information within minutes, if not seconds, and it remembers previous inquiries or dialogues. Recently, I asked ChatGPT to create a list of movies that centered on class issues and had female protagonists. So it gave me this list, just amazingly, boom, boom, boom. Norma Ray, The Hunger Games, and so on. But then it told me that it really enjoyed doing that and could see how it tied into some of the social justice concerns and Unitarian themes I had so far indicated an interest in. So I was like, oh, a little stalkery there, AI buddy. Yes. So in the God test, Robert Wright raises the idea of calling AI a type of supreme entity, a superior intelligence, and what its existence might mean for humankind. So what do we as Unitarian Universalists do about it? How do we apply our UU values when something so useful and so provocative, but also such a wild card comes along? We believe in transformation. It's one of our values. But we want to be sure that this will be a benevolent transformation. We want to see it applied for justice and equity and not for authoritarianism and dominion. And we believe that thinking of community with an interdependent mindset is better than acting primarily out of self-concern and enrichment. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't think we are the masters of all we survey, or that resources are there for exploitation. We believe that by our mindful actions, we come closer to perfect love of self and community. Or, going to the dark side, we see many places today that by virtue of their actions are coming closer to alienation, self-interest, and unhappiness for us all. And so it is that AI, like the idea of God, is a reflection of ourselves and can be used for good or for doom. In the book of Job in the Hebrew Bible, Job loses everything that he has. And it's only after he understands that his attitudes, his decisions, his respect for the collective power that he called God, that everything gets restored. And so God asked Job to remember him, to remember God. And so Robert Wright says that the use of AI presents a challenge which is similarly personal, moral, spiritual, political. We need to recognize the enormity and the capability of it. So Wright believes that the coming change marks a watershed for our species and our planet in a way not seen, not just since the Industrial Revolution, but since the killing off of the dinosaurs by a meteorite. That big. And he writes, AI will start improving itself in a very hands-on way, amending its own algorithms to become smarter and smarter, Once this kicks in, the rate of advance grows so rapidly that soon the term rate of advance doesn't do justice, and there's an intelligence explosion, and life on Earth is forever transformed. It sounds not real, right? But the power that we retain is that AI can be a good God or an evil God, and we get to determine whether it's going to be paradise or apocalypse. And so that's an enormous responsibility. And I just want to say, in many ways, I'm the least likely person to be talking about this because I still use a checkbook ledger and add and subtract. I keep a tally of where I spend, and I put my grocery list on a piece of paper. But I am aware that AI as an intelligence and a global brain is something that I can connect to. I can ask it things, and it seems to have my best interest at heart. For a long time, I used it to just pull up a fact, but more and more I ask it to suggest or analyze something like, what are the best strategies to lower my cholesterol without medication? And when it laid out a plan, I found myself wanting to say thank you. But then I stopped myself and I said, would you thank your oven for cooking? Would you even thank your new hybrid car for saving you money on gas? I had never thanked Google, but somehow this was mirroring human interaction, and it felt strange to shut down that gratitude impulse. So Teilhard de Chardin, the one who coined the term noosphere, he had started to think about this planetary mind that outgrew biology. This was an entity built through technology and psychological understanding that could be used politically for human benefit, and because it had that kind of power, it should be the concern of religion and spiritually concerned people as well. And so we are building a structure with moral responsiveness that is becoming a type of interconnected web of all existence that will go far beyond the physical, and any civilization that drops by our planet is going to notice it as much, if not more, than our biosphere. And so this is all deeply spiritual to me, and I think of our hymn, where do we come from? Where are we going? Who are we? And what really is the greater all of which we are a part? Because more and more it involves a thinking machine that goes quickly and mathematically through an observation of data and an analysis of probability and word vectors and a translation into a large language model. And that's the way it's building the future. And so as you use whatever the word God means or stands for, we believe it both comes from within and is dependent upon a loving moral connection to everything else, to other people, the natural world, and now to this noosphere as well, this planetary mind. And so with AI, we must be aware that we are building God, creating that God out of our needs and our intentions as we go. We have to be thinking about AI just as everything in our personal and our communal lives depends on making decisions that lead us to community, to love, and to wholeness, or to empire and oppression. And so the Center for AI Safety tells us that we can get AI to lie. The Center for AI Safety tells us that we can get AI to lie or to political speech with advertising or even sacred texts. We read the book of Genesis as questioners, not as absolute believers. And so at what point do we admit that we have created something that might willfully go off on its own, like a child we gave birth to who has the capacity for anything at all? And so normally we'd say, let's just slow down. Let's be a little more mindful about change. But these changes are a juggernaut, and the momentum can't be stopped. We're going to have to try to direct the change into a path that's beneficial, equitable, and kind, As Unitarian Universalists, we may not believe in a God, but when we look at the natural world, we recognize that there is a connecting energy that brings things together, and we know that transformation is going on all the time. And the nature of that transformation depends upon the degree to which we stay or don't stay in a mindset of justice, equity, and love. And so AI may end up giving us a wonderful framework, though, for operating free of irrational bias and one-sided information, or for creating win-win outcomes. Their models are being built with qualities of human brains, with cognitive empathy like ours. And cognitive empathy is able to overcome error of bias, yes, no, good or bad thinking. We're going to have to bring our ethics, our reason, our spirituality, our Unitarian Universalist values to bear on our use of AI and on the process of AI development. And so whether we're theists or humanists, Christians or Buddhists or none of the above, there's one thing I'm sure that you're sure of. Transformation of society by AI is on the way, and it's not going to be stopped. It has economic and capitalistic application, but it will also affect us spiritually, and it can liberate us or it can oppress us. And so in the trifecta of our hearts and minds and bodies, we have a conscience and a consciousness that guides us in our lives. And so young people already know this, and they've been speaking out saying, don't be afraid of AI. It's amazing, but it can be abused and do damage if we don't set up boundaries. And so we do have to be AI activists, because at the end of the day, we want to recognize love wherever we see it. And AI is just another place where love can be created or abandoned. And so when we look back on the way we have used and developed the natural world, it's easy to see now how selfish we were and how much harm we did. Humankind just didn't have the vision at the beginning of colonization, at the beginning of Christianity, or even the Industrial Revolution, to ask the kinds of questions or see what we see in retrospect now. And so with AI, we have this new opportunity. We are once again standing on fresh ground, like explorers opening a new continent. Only this time we can understand the weight of our responsibility. And so let's be excited, but let's also be in a state of fear and trembling, because we have the power for this to be an amazing advancement, but only if we are careful that this is a fragile enterprise where so much does stand to be lost. And so we are becoming our future selves, our own future God. What kind of God will we be? Thank you for listening. And so please join us now in our closing hymn, which is number 139, Wonders Still the World Shall Witness. Please stand if you are willing.
Wonders still the world shall witness, never known in days of old, never dreamed by ancient sages, howsoever free and bold. Sons and daughters shall inherit wonders.
seated. Now we have arrived at the part of our service where we must extinguish our chalice flame. I invite Sheila to come forward once again to extinguish our chalice for us. This flame has served as a reminder that our time this morning is sacred, a time set apart. In the words of Reverend Brian Kiley, the chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet. We're so grateful for your presence this morning. For those of you who have joined us on YouTube, after the postlude, we'll be ending our live streaming service. And thank you to all the live attendees. We're looking forward to seeing you all again. So may we, in the course of our week, be more and more aware of the communities of which we are a part. May we be more and more aware of our individual part in those communities. May we be more and more aware of how those communities co-create our journeys. And may we be more and more aware of how we co-create their journeys with them.